All right. Thank you, everybody. My name is Jackie A. It's a pleasure. I am in the not so northern state, but of Connecticut, and I'm very, very excited to be here today. You're going to see a dog. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm not a cat person. I'm a dog person. I have a dog who's going to try to join us today, and I came into OA the first time when I was younger in my career. I was estranged from my family. I lived in Fairfield County and had this job that I thought was like my dream job, and I was going crazy. I was constipated. Thank God it's not us. I was constipated and I was very, very stressed, and I was put on a medication to help me go to the bathroom. And what happened was, can I mention food in this meeting or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So back in the day, I used to go back and forth to a local sea town, and I would go and I would get a head of cabbage and whatever peanuts were like in the bag, the discount bag. And I would go back during my work day, and I would chop that up on the work counter block, and I would eat that and peanuts. And that was, I thinking, like lunch. This is going to help me go to the bathroom, in addition to this laxative that I was taking. And so before that, I was an exercise bulimic, a binger, a restrictor. I didn't know any of these words. I just did these things. I didn't like associate it with anything. And but I never had this idea of like, I couldn't go to the bathroom, I should try to get it out. And it never really happened before. So it started a journey of abusing laxatives. My medication stopped working, so I started to take it upon myself to start doing it. And so I decided that I needed help. And we had AA meetings where I worked, and we had Al-Anon meetings, and there was a recovery meeting for like children of like abuse, pretty much kind of similar to like ACA. And in those meetings, I heard recovery because people had gone to 12-step programs. Now, I had gone to AA programs before. I'd gone to Al-Anon, and I was just like, wait a minute. Somebody said OA, and I was like, what is OA? What is this? What is this? And so I went to a meeting. I actually went to 4 meetings, and I surrendered. I didn't know what the heck we were reading. We were probably reading the big book or the brown book. I don't remember. And I knew enough in 4 meetings that I needed to get rid of these peanuts. These peanuts were driving me crazy. I was like a cracked out elephant trying to, like, literally in the middle of the night just doing crazy things. And I asked a wonderful nun at this meeting if she could watch me throw out my peanuts into a dumpster in the back of this church. And she said, honey, I can't walk that far. And I said, can you watch me? And I open up the back of my trunk, and I run out with like a 5-pound bag of peanuts, like half eaten, and I throw them in the dumpster. That same year, though, I'm hearing this recovery. I'm feeling better. I watched a movie that inspired me to go out. Now, this is all I'm telling you, self-will, before I came into program. Well, kind of in program. Is I go out and I try to do what the Reese Witherspoon movie did when she beat heroin on the movie Wild. She went out to the Pacific Trail, and she's hiking and hiking for like 8 months at a time, and she has all these spiritual experiences, and she's clean and sober. And I was like, I could do that. Well, wouldn't you know that I brought with me 3 jars of peanut butter? Now, I just gave the peanut butter or peanuts to this nun, knowing like I'm addicted to it. But I was like, I need to pack something light. And so I packed peanut butter, because hello, it's calorie dense, a box of cereal, almond milk, and a Luna bar. Well, I just told you I had constipation problems. So why I thought that was going to be a solution, but I was like, no problem. I got the fiber kind. Like, I got the fiber cereal. So I was crazy. So long story short, I didn't understand water filters back then. I got sick on the side of a mountain several times, never up, because I'm too proud to lose my weak teeth already, and they're already cracking. So I was never a vomiter because I know you could see it, but I was definitely a laxer because who's going to be checking my back? Nobody. So whatever, that's my business. So I had this spiritual experience on the mountain almost died, got saved. Oh, this is so cool. All right, cool. So then I was in the food from there on. I didn't go back to OA. I didn't even remember it existed. So I go out and my alcoholism increases, my food increases, I'm binging more, I'm trying to make it last. I can't keep off the weight the same. I joined by the way, I have gotten hired by a police force, didn't take the job. Enlisted in the National Guard when I was 30, didn't take the job. I did try to I actually got myself into the job. I got kicked out of the job because of medical neglect. So I've definitely tried to lie my way, get close to something, and then be like, nah, I'm not going to do it. And get close enough to the point where I've put my body through some crazy circumstances to try to like prove it, that I could try to do these things that men can do. And I guess I'm a feminist, but I love men to pieces, and I work in the LGBTQ community. I'm queer. So I always wanted to compete with guys. Competing with women scared the daylights out of me, but I would have out-eaten Shinwendu in a second. We would have went toe to toe, dude. I wouldn't have even gotten sick. That's the saddest part about it. I would have laughed at him. I would have been like, look at my pen, this mother effer. I was just like, and then he'd be sleeping and I'd be like, ha 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 ha, I'm going to go jog this off and stay cute. That's the kind of mentality that I was. And I did that with my colleagues. I did that with my friends. And yeah, I still wanted to look like this little trophy thing for whoever I was dating. And that was my mentality. And so, fast forward, I get to a point where I'm dating somebody that also works in recovery with me at the time. And it was very romantic. We met during COVID. We both had masks on. He never knew what I looked like, but he knew that he liked me and he was in love with me. And we got approval from our CEO and our vice presidents and our my supervisors before I'd ever let him put a hand on me, like to even touch my hand. And so we started to date. Well, if you put two addicts together in a household, it goes okay for a little bit. 6 weeks into moving in, I realized like stuff was not okay. And by the 8th week of him moving in, I asked him to leave. And so we got to a point where we were going to get married. And now, mind you, he had been clean from heroin, meth, cigarettes, alcohol. I was newly sober, like a couple weeks sober at that point. I'd really cut back on drinking in 2020. But I was crazy in the food, crazy. And so and what I mean by crazy, by the way, I was a vegetarian and somewhat veganish, gluten-free for 7 years. But when my mom's house that I slept over didn't have nuts, I ate 3/4 of a ham as a vegetarian. 3/4 of a ham, standing up in the dark, in the fridge with my hands at 3:00 in the morning, in the dark, with the fridge light on. And then I had to call out of work. And this was back in the day, call out of work in the morning so I could go to the YMCA and bike for 2 hours and 45 minutes on Swiss Hills on the bike. And I am not an Olympian. I'm a mediocre athlete at best. But my mentality was, I will burn off whatever evidence I have. If I was a bank robber, I would have flushed money down the drain. If I was a getaway car, I would have crashed into people and left and took off on foot. That's the kind of person I am when it comes to the food. And so in this relationship, I didn't like that my ex couldn't do things that I wanted to do. I didn't like that when he binged, he wanted to sleep. I didn't like when he binged, he canceled our plans. Meanwhile, I'm like, get your fucking ass up. We got to go hiking. This is my mentality. So I was crazy. And when I would cook, I've talked to Shinwendu about that. He would gaslight and be like, look at me, look at the food. And he'd go, I think I'm going to order, after I just spent hours prepping for us. And so those kind of things made me mad. And I've been a suicide attempt survivor before, but that was when I was a kid. And so I had not come into this program suicidal, but I did come into this program nearly homicidal. And I'm afraid of blood. I don't want to kill anybody.
I worked with people who had hurt people. I worked as a social worker. I worked with the DOC population. But at that time, I wanted to beat this man's face in. I wanted to hurt him bad. And I knew how bad that was. We have 58 shared colleagues, by the way, as shared friends on Facebook. 58. So going into work the next day with like a domestic violence restraining order or probation or protective order would not have been a good thing. So he said to me, like, whoa, we need program. Like, he's like, you need to work yours, you need to work mine. Let's go get couples counseling. Like, we still want to get married. And this was in 2021. And then, you know, we both do our thing. We both binge, restrict. I exercise bulimic the next day. And he's like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go into program. I'm not ready to get couples counseling. And I said, well, I am, and you can't stay here. And so I came into this program truly, truly broken, like literally almost broke a man's eye socket. Like I was visioning it. I had just bought my own house. My name was on the whole thing. He was just paying me rent. I had to kick out the person I was going to marry. And thank God he remembered what OA was. But I tell you this story because it took me 4 months between 2021 Labor Day to January of 2022 for me to realize that I was a deserter and returner. I had told everybody I was brand new to OA because I genuinely thought I was. And when the disease, if you are on a Vision for You or you ever read the doctor's opinion, we always talk about the mental blank spot of the mind. I'm telling you, as a person that has ADHD and is an addict, that shit's fucking real. I'm sorry for swearing, but that is so real. I forgot as a recovery, like, social worker that a program I had gone to even existed. And so I came into OA as if my life was on fire. Not just my hair was on fire, my life was on fire. And I was living with my ex. And literally I went from living in my bedroom to living in my guest bedroom, and then he moved out 2 weeks later. So I had to learn, get outside help in addition, but outside help from different programs of how to not have that whack-a-mole game of just my life exploding. And so I had to learn how to take care of a house. I had to learn how to work more to be able to do that. How to, I have never over-exercised since the day that I came in. I have never used exercise as like a tool to like eliminate the food the way that I did before. We're talking whole rotisserie chickens, 2 pounds of cottage cheese, a watermelon, a salad, and a whole bag of popcorn, like the big kind, just after one hike. We're not talking like after a couple of days. Like that was just one hikes. So when I had to learn like the pain of shrinking my stomach in the beginning was not comfortable. The pain of having to make it to the next meal time, not comfortable. Doing my blood work today, fasting before blood work, that was fun. That was hilariously fun. But I did, and so that grueling, like I choose to have one relapse, and that's it. I don't want more. Now I've had little ones by accident. I've had what I thought was curry, and it ended up being pad thai. That freaked me the heck out because that's made with peanuts. I grabbed the table as if I had drank cyanide. And that happened in like 2022 in January. And I freaked out, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed to God the way that you would if you accidentally drank like rat poisoning. And thank God that the craving didn't last that long. I think it lasted like a day. But I know enough that I don't want to do that again. And then literally 2 weeks ago, I had a salad the other day, and I thought it was just like a Cobb salad, and it was a Harvest Cobb salad. And I looked like that crazy person in the restaurant because a Harvest Cobb salad means butternut squash, pecans, candied pecans, and like blue cheese. And I literally took every little piece of that food. My mom's sitting on the side of me, and she goes, "Do you want me to send it back? Do you want me to send it back? That's what you wanted. Is that what you? But you said you wanted that." I said, "Mom, please stop. Please stop." In front of me. And she's like, "But Jack, you said that you want." I said, "Mom, please stop." And she goes, "But I can send it back." I said, "Mom, please stop talking to me." I literally just asked her to please stop talking to me. And I just literally pinched everything with my fingers. I looked as if I was a chemist of craziness, and I'm okay with that. And I pinched everything. I was like, we're going to play the game. Is this butternut squash or is this a pecan? Is it butternut squash or a pecan? Because I know from worked in kitchens that there's only a quarter cup of this. So they only put a quarter cup of pecans in there, and they only put a quarter cup of cheese. And I was like, all right, I'm going to find a quarter cup's worth of pecans. And that's what I did, except for one little chunk. And I felt it in the back of my mouth. And I literally was like this at the table, as if I pooped myself. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, God, this is one of those pecan moments, the peanut moments. Like, you need to help me right now. No cravings. It was a minuscule thing. I would have almost rather taken a broken tooth at that point than the pecan. But I was like, okay, I tried. But I will go to a lot of lengths, obviously, for my food. Like, I'm just like, no. I'm okay with looking weird out in front of people. I like my family. I love my family. I tolerate my mom. So if I look a little weird in front of my mom, I don't really care. That's fine with me. I'm going to say about the way that I worked my program was when I came in. Now, mind you, I worked at a residential and I'm a social worker. So I had lied up until my 33 years of life, hiding in plain sight. And people knew that I was like kind of crazy. They'd be like, oh, well, you eat a lot, but then you exercise a lot, but nobody was going to the bathroom with me. So they couldn't really figure out the rest of the stuff. And I always wanted to look good in front of others. So now I had to be transparent. And I am a very transparent person now, where before I didn't just live a double life. I lived like a faux leather kind of double life. Like, it was just not that realistic, even to myself. Like, to myself, I didn't know what the heck was going on. So in program, I knew that I needed help at daytime and at nighttime. So I was going to my nighttime local meetings like this, but I would go to one closer to 7 o'clock. And then I was going to a Vision for You in the morning at 7. So I was doing that before work and after work. So that gave me a buffer of like, the disease is like kind of like captured in 12 hours. And then I can talk about recovery at work. And then maybe that's when what will help my head. But when I was meal prepping on weekends, I didn't have that structure of talking to clients all day. And so what I started to do is I started to go to 4 meetings a day on Saturdays. And I needed to do that first year. And I'm not talking like a 90 and 90. I know some people can't do that. They have kids, they're caregivers. I'm a single woman with a crazy dog, and I love her. And but I did like 700 and something. I did a year and a half of at least 2 meetings a day, and I needed that. And I worked all of my tools, all 9 of my tools every day. And I go to a 90-day meeting that, thank you, Bud, for speaking on, and we celebrate the 10th tool, which is higher power. And so, I need to. My God is amazing. My God is hilarious, and silly. And I appreciate my higher power. And my higher power is like dead, alive. One of my favorite assignments that one of my sponsors gave me was to ask me, like, to do a urgent higher letter for my higher power. And some of you have already probably heard this a lot, where they say, you know, God is everything or God is nothing. Could your God fix this? And the answer is, if it's no, then fire your God and get a different one. Like, you're like, sorry. I always tell people, I'm like, I don't know about your God, but my God's like, your bubble's your bubble. My God's my bubble. And I'm like, I'm not responsible for yours. Like, I don't know. But mine's pretty cool. And they help me. And if I try to run away, God's like a warrant officer, and they'll come get me. And I've also had feedback from my 11-step partners. I'm on an 11-step train, and that's been essential. That has been a pillar of my recovery. And I've been in there for over 3.5 years, and I've had about 8 different sponsors, most of it because they've relapsed and had to start over, or have switched sponsors because they've dropped me because they relapsed or they were going through tough times. I left a sponsor and came back to her because I went and got done traditions, did Al-Anon, and came back. So, but I never left OA. And But one of my 11-step partners and one of my sponsors has both said to me before, your God sounds neglectful. And that helped me see things, because in program we learned like to surrender. But in social work, we learned that if you get a no, it means you push harder. And so a lot of, and growing up, I'm like part snow people. My family's like Eastern European and like lineage wise. And so it's more of like, if you're drowning and your head pops up, like, cool. Okay. You're not drowning. And if you get out of the water gasping for air, it's like, oh, you made it. Okay, cool. Let's go. Versus like that. So that's what kind of higher power, like what I think a loving parent is letting you watch you do things. And I didn't realize that it could have been the person that reached their hand into the water and said, let me help you pull you out. And so I've had to learn that my higher power can do both, because I've had both in my life. I've had moments where I feel like people, God has reached their hand into the water versus me always having to tread and gasp for air. And I've learned that my higher power can be so much more if I ask for so much more. And so I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful that I can have regular poops. I can have regular poops, and I can do scary exercises at the YMCA, like group exercises instead of exercise by myself. And I can be loving towards my fellow OAers and 12-steppers, and I can also tell people when I'm upset now. And that's really cool also, is like learning how to be transparent. So with that, I pass.